Number 5. This happened a couple of years ago. I was 17 at the time. My parents had gone away on a holiday out of country and left me alone at our house. This was a pretty normal thing as my parents went away often and I live in a pretty safe area. It was probably around 1 a.m. and I tend to stay up late watching films. Coincidentally, I had been watching a horror film when I heard the letterbox on the front door shut. At first, I brushed it off as the wind because it would tend to do this from time to time. About 5 minutes later, the security light in the back garden came on, which my bedroom window is directly above, so I noticed it right away. I sat up staring out of my window for a while, looking to see if it was a cat walking through the garden, but nothing else happened. I shrugged it off and continued to watch my movie. It must have been a good 20 minutes later. The film had ended, so I turned off my TV and got into bed. It wasn't until the house was completely silent that I heard the back door handle jiggling. At this point, I was freaking out a bit, but I knew that I had locked the door, so I decided to creep downstairs to investigate. I got to the bottom of my stairs, and the jingling suddenly stopped. I was walking down the hallway to go into the kitchen where the back door is, when I heard the letterbox on the front door open again. I turned to see a finger holding it open and these crazy eyes staring directly at me. I didn't know what to do. I was frozen in place. My heart was beating out of my chest. The eyes stared at me through the open slot for what felt like an eternity. But then, the letterbox door slowly closed, and whoever it was started knocking on the door. I yelled at them to fuck off and that I was calling the police. That's when they started bashing on the door. It even sounded like they had kicked it a couple of times as well. But then it just suddenly stopped. I could hear the person on the other side of the door slowly walking away. It would be fair to say that I didn't get any sleep that night. Number 4.
This didn't happen directly to me, though I was in the home when it happened. The witness to all of this is my older sister, Tori. Around 1999, my sister and her friend Chrissy were 16 and Chrissy had just gotten her license. They had been out joyriding in Chrissy's DeVille. We lived in a newer development in a pretty rural area, so there wasn't much else to do for fun. By the time they got back to our neighborhood, it was already dark. Chrissy lived about half a block away and she was going to drop off Tori before heading home. The house we lived in had a large patio extended from the front of the house with trees along either side blocking the view of the driveway. Chrissy stopped the car in front of the driveway and Tori was about to get out of the car when Chrissy grabbed her arm. Tori looked back and saw a look of fear on Chrissy's face. She turned back toward the house to see what caused this reaction and saw a figure crouched in the shadows between the parked cars. Looking back at them was a man in all black. He wore a black long-sleeve shirt, black pants, and, most frighteningly, a black ski mask. He was also completely barefoot. As he made eye contact with the girls, he raised his finger to his lips as a gesture to shush. Tori slammed the door shut and then raced to Chrissy's house, where her father called the police and my father. No trace of the man was ever found. What really frightens me about this occurrence is that my parents, myself, and my younger sister were all home at the time. I don't know if the man had any weapons, or if he would have moved along when he realized the house was occupied, but I'm glad my sister came home when she did.
Number 3. When I was about 3 or 4, there was a man in his 30s who lived with his parents in my neighborhood. His name was Darrell. He was known all around the neighborhood for his eccentric behavior, as he was a schizophrenic from his heavy use of drugs. He would talk to himself, play air guitar for hours in the street, and screamed obscenities at nothing. He was also very into little girls. He used to wait outside the bus stop and watch them get off. My mother is a probation officer, and he was quite popular at the courthouse. So whenever he was walking down the street, she would yell at us to come inside. One time, my mother threw out some old toys of ours. They were pink fuzzy boas, wands, and tiaras. She heard someone rummaging in the trash at night, but she didn't go out to investigate. The next day, Darrell shows up for court. He was wearing the boa and tiara we had thrown out. He said to my mom, "You can find such nice stuff in people's trash cans." That freaked her out because the way he said it, it implied that he knew where she lived. A few weeks later, my mom is outside and Darrell approaches her. There had been a murder at a nearby hotel of a young woman just a week before. Darrell said to my mom, "Hey, did you hear about that murder at the hotel?" My mom says yes. He smiled from ear to ear and just said, "She had 3 little girls too." Then he walked away, laughing to himself. My mom was so creeped out and unnerved that he might have something to do with the murder that we moved out shortly after. We never saw him again after that, but his mom shot herself in their house, and his father moved out, so I'm pretty sure that Darrell isn't around the city anymore. Also, as far as I know, the murder was never solved. Number 2.
My husband works night shifts sometimes. His shifts rotate though, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 p.m. to 9 a.m., that sort of thing. I wasn't too bothered by it until the other night. We live in a 4-plex, 1 beside and 2 behind, all on a single level. Since I'm not working yet, I'm pretty familiar with the comings and goings of my neighbors. Heck, I even know what everyone's car sounds like. It was probably just after midnight and I was talking to some friends over Skype when I hear the door handle start to jiggle. At first I thought maybe my husband was home early and I got up to greet him. Then I quickly realized I hadn't heard his work boots on the gravel or his car. I went really still and just kept listening just in case I was mistaken. Finally I yelled, "Hello?" Just silence. Then I heard something in the lock. My husband likes me to be protected, so he bought us a couple guns. I grabbed the shotgun and pumped it once. It's loud enough without actually putting ammo in that you know what it is. Then I yelled, "I have a gun and I know how to use it. Get lost before I call the police." Big, heavy footsteps ran off across our graveled lot, and I stayed up the remainder of the night until the sun came up. Then I finally fell asleep. My husband came home later that morning and was worried when he found me in bed at 11 a.m., but let me sleep a little longer once I explained what happened. The next day he had off work, so we went to visit some friends of his. When we got back, we discovered the pumpkins I had next to the stoop were all knocked over like someone was looking for a key. My husband did a quick sweep of the house before we went in, but we're looking for a new place now.
Number 1. I'm an old man now, but this happened years ago when I was young. I was about 13, and I lived in Florida with my dad and my brother. My mother left after my brother was born, and my dad drank a lot. My dad never needed to drink to be crazy or hit us. He did all of that on his own just fine. I tried to take the beating so my brother didn't have to. Sometimes it was just too much to take. He would call us all types of names. He even threatened to kill us multiple times. My dad was a crazy son of a bitch. One day my brother and I got up and started searching for food. When my dad came home and slammed the door behind him. He was already mad at us for something. He set down the gas can that he was holding.
"You boys have fucked me over for the last time."
Then before I knew it, he was tying us up. I didn't try to stop him. I think I was too confused or too tired. My brother looked at me waiting for me to do something, but I didn't. He pushed us onto the floor and poured gas all over the house. He was laughing the whole time. He then lit a match, threw it, and then shut the door. He didn't pour any of the gas in his room, so me and my brother managed to scoot to his room and shut the door. We both passed out, and when I woke up, I was surprised. By chance, my grandmother had stopped by for a surprise visit, except when she got there, the house was set ablaze. My dad was circling the house with a shotgun. I didn't understand why at the time, but my grandma said, "In case you two got out." My grandma took a big piece of wood and smacked him over the head with it, then called the police and fire department. After that, we lived with our grandmother for a while. As soon as I turned 16, my brother and I left. I worked and he went to school. I never saw my dad again. My grandmother has since passed away, and me and my brother are doing just fine now. But Dad, if you're still out there, you can go to hell, and you better hope we never meet again. Hey guys, Unit 522 here, and I want to thank you very much for watching my video. I would appreciate it very much if you would share, like, and comment. And if you're new to this channel, become one with the Unity by hitting the subscribe button. If you have a scary story or experience that you want featured on this channel, you can always send it to my email or post it on the Free Horror Stories subreddit. The links for those can be found in the description below. If you would like to help out this channel even more, consider a PayPal donation. And for more updates, be sure to follow me on Twitter. There's nothing wrong with a little darkness in your life, as long as you never forget there's always a reason to be afraid.